Hello, this is Dr. Heath Van Horn. This video is for Lab 3 of CITA 320, practice using utilities for probing and diagnosing networks. You should have completed all of Lesson 3, which includes answering the questions, so that way you have a better understanding of how these commands are used and what they are showing you. So let's get started with the first part. It says open the command line window. You just type in CMD down here at the bottom. That'll open up the command prompt. If you want to look up your own IP address, like step number 2, you just type ipconfig if you're in Windows. And from here you can see that I have 2 IP addresses. I have one for the wired connection, and I have one for the wireless connection. So that gives me 2 IP addresses. To perform a network communications check with another computer, you have to ask them for their IP address. So what I'm going to do is I have another PC here, and its IP address is 192.168.0.102. So I'm going to ping 192.168.0.102, and you can see here that the packet is taking 4 hops to get there, or no, I'm sorry. It sent 4 packets. 4 packets were received. There was no loss. That means there was a 100% chance that packets are communicating. We're doing good. So no loss is really good information. So from there, we want to do a trace route. So we want to see all the machines that our ping is going through. And in Windows, it's trace RT. And we do the same IP address, 192.168.0.102. And we only go 1 hop. The only reason we have a 1 hop is because I have the Surface Pro hooked up as a writing tablet to my PC, so that way I can draw figures on my computer, and that seems to work pretty good. Otherwise, it'd have to go through the router. Alright, so now that we've pinged our distant PC and we've used a trace route to see how many hops we have to go through, we can look at IP addresses for websites. So if you wanted to look at IP addresses for a website, you just type in ns lookup and type the website. So per the lab instructions, we'll try google.com, and that tells us our local Google node. If we're going to look up YouTube, there's our local hub for that. It's the same one. What we're hitting is what they want to see us on the outside. And then if we want to hit NS lookup for CNN.com, that gives us much more IP addresses. We get 4 IPv6 addresses and 4 IPv4 addresses. But what about if we're at Delhi? So let's look up Delhi. So ns lookup delhi.edu, and that gives us their outside IP address. So that's pretty neat to find IP addresses this way. Alright, so if you want to see the route from your computer to that website, all you have to do is type trace RT for Windows or trace route for Linux. And let's do a trace cert to the Delhi one. It's only up the hill from me, so let's see how many hops it goes through. And they might be blocked. There's a lot of firewalls out there that block this kind of activity. but it's a good troubleshooting tool. So, okay, looks like it's going to Roadrunner. Then it comes out. Looks like one packet was lost. And if you get a lot of these request times out, that probably means you're hitting a firewall and they're just dropping the packets so you can't trace all the way. And there's a way you can look up the IP addresses on the web. Yeah, so we're getting timeout, and that means we're hitting a firewall. So we'll hit Control C, that cancels that. So what we're going to do is we'll try another one. We'll try trace route to Google. Again, it sends us to Roadrunner. And we finally get a path. After 10 hops, we are at Google, and that's what responds back to us. All right, so that's a good way of knowing if you're troubleshooting a network, especially a network that you're controlling, and you want to ping through the devices, and I will show you how to do that on Packet Tracer as well. But traceroute and ping are two valuable tools for troubleshooting your network. All right, so let's look at the next step here. We've done step 6, we've done step 7. Let's look at step 8. It says look up the routing table for your computer. So if your computer is communicating with another one, when you type in netstat-r, it'll tell you which other PCs you're communicating with. Okay, so here's the gateway. That's my router. That means home. That means loop back home. There's no place like home. So I have a lot of devices on my network. It's only showing me the inside of my network, not outside of my network, which is fine. I'm happy with that. You should have something similar if you're doing this at home. And if you want to see the existing TCP connections and UDP packets or sockets, all you have to do is type netstat-a, and that'll come in, and it's still running, and it tells you all the TCP packets that are currently established that have not been closed. So this is a good way of learning what information is leaving your network or leaving your system and going to other networks. Still reporting on different ports. So you can see how it's all these different ports. You can look up on the web to see what the port numbers are, what they mean. After a while you get used to it. Alright, and then there's all our UDP ports. Okay, so in your readings you should have read the difference between TCP and UDP. I'm not going to go into it here. And now you can see all the different ports that are open. Okay, so deliverables. Submit a text document. Make sure your name is on it, so that way I know who to attribute the completion to. And answer the 4 questions. We use the different commands. What's the IP address of the computer you are using? What's the IP address of your target computer? So just get on Slack and say, hey, my IP address is this. What is the network route from your PC to theirs? And then what's your IPv addresses to CNN.com? So your answers could differ from everybody else's, but it's a good way of you practicing the tools to see what the results are. So that way when you're working on your own network, even on Packet Tracer, you'll be able to establish some troubleshooting guidelines. And that is a video for another time. Again, this is Dr. Heath Van Horn with lab number 3. Good luck, and hope to see you soon.